In this tutorial, what we'll be doing is adding a button to the menu scene. But before we add the button to the menu scene, we're going to need to add yet another scene so that when you click the button scene, you actually end up at the game scene. So last time we left off, we had our menu scene that we added, and we added a picture to the background. So before we begin and place a button on the menu scene that we can click to actually start the game, we're going to go through the same procedure that we did last time of copying over the scene and creating another one. So we're going to go over to our JavaScript section, and we're going to create yet another scene, and this time we're going to call it game scene, and this is where the game is actually going to happen. We're going to go back to the menu scene and just copy it all like we did last time, paste it in, and then go back and change all the instances, this time of menu to game. Remember, whenever you're talking about a class, we need to use a capital letter, and when we're referring to a key pair, we're using small. Here we're letting the console say that we're on game scene so that we know what scene we happen to be in. And at the end, we need to change this as well. Once again, besides just changing the game scene to match up, we also need to alter the game.js because we need to add this scene into the list. So we have 4 different scenes now after doing this over and over again. And once again, we have to import the file game scene. And we need to create a variable that is a new instance of our class game scene. And we need to add our game scene to the list of scenes that Scene Manager can track. And we'll just confirm that everything is still running. It shouldn't change anything. We should still end up just on menu scene as well. So it starts up, and it's actually ending on title scene. So if we go over to title scene, we didn't add anything in title scene to move forward yet. So we can add into title scene what we did last time in splash scene. So if you remember, in splash scene, we advanced using update, and we kept track, or the Pfizer is keeping track of the time in milliseconds since the program began. So we can use this same kind of logic in title scene to move over to menu scene. But we can't use 3 seconds because it took us 3 seconds to get here. So if we add 3 more seconds, then we will be on 6 seconds, and we should be able to end up on menu scene. So we should see that over here. We're just going to clear that and then rerun. And it should go through our list of scenes, splash scene, title scene, and then it should finally end up at menu scene where we had nothing. So now we're going to focus on menu scene, and we're going to do the exact same kind of thing that we did last time of adding an image to the background on menu scene, but instead of just moving forward using a timer, we're actually going to put a button on, and you have to click the button to move forward, and then we'll end up on game scene. So we'll go through the exact same process we've done before. The first thing that we need to do is we need to create a variable that can hold the image for our background. And we're going to call that menu scene background image, and we're just going to put nothing in it at the moment. The next thing we need to do is actually load the image that exists for what we want to show up. And for that, once again, we'll put it under preload. And this time we're using the image alien screen image 2. And if we come over to assets, we've already loaded that, hopefully. Open it up so you can see it, and there it is right there. So we do have that image already preloaded, and we'll be able to access that image. Once we have the image, we're going to go through the same kind of thing that we did before in Create, and we're going to grab that image and we're going to center it on the screen. So we're going to grab the background image and assign it to a variable called that we already declared called menu screen background image, and we're going to follow the same procedure we did last time of centering it in the center of our screen. And that should make our image show up. So we're just going to run this again and confirm when we get the menu scene that that actually does show up. So there's our title scene, and there's our menu scene. So it looks similar, but it's a different view of the spaceship. So now what we want to do is we want to add that button in. So adding a button in is quite similar to adding an image in. The first thing that we need to do is go back to our constructor, and we need a variable so that we can place the button in, and we're just going to call it start button, and at the moment we're going to call it nil. Then we actually have to load the image that is going to be our button. So we're going to do that once again under preload, where you load your images, and the key we're going to call it is start button, and we're going to get the image, and it's going to be called start button, which exists right down here. So we already have that image. Just like we place the image on the screen, the background image, we do the exact same kind of thing for the start button. So we can place that on the screen. And we can put that under create. So we're going to take the start button and we're going to add it as a sprite. We're going to put it in the center of the screen, but then just slightly below 100 pixels down, and it's going to be the start button. So if we run this now, hopefully our start button will show up on our menu screen. And there's our start button. Now, to make this button interactive, we have to add that in so that we can actually attach some code to this button. So to make the button interactive, once you create it, you take the button and you add the property set interactive, and we're going to add this thing user cursor is true, so that when the person puts the cursor over it and clicks on it, that we can actually trap that event. Now the event we're going to trap, we have to actually call some function. So we have to reference that to the object, our start button. So what we're going to do is we're going to say on pointer down, so when the person clicks, so button when the pointer, when it's over top or on, and pointer down, the person actually clicks on it, then we want this function call, click button, to happen. So since we're referencing this function, that's not a built-in function, that's a function that we would actually write ourselves. So we have to take and write that code. So what we're going to do is right after update, we're just going to place the code for this function, click button. So here's our function name called click button. And what it's going to do is basically exactly what we've been doing before, but in the timer, we would set the scene to start something new. This time we're just going to go to the game scene, and at the moment, remember, our game scene is completely empty. So when we click this button, it will then just go to a blank scene, but we should see over here that we've actually moved into the new blank scene. So when we run this, our intro should go through, our splash scene, our title scene, we're at menu, and when we take our cursor and click on it, there we go. We end up on game scene. So now we have all the beginning stuff ready to go. We finally have our intro all done, and next time we'll actually start working on game scene and get a background image like we've done before, and then we'll finally get game objects loaded onto our game scene and start to move around.